Hey everybody, Uncle Rich here for Who's Telling the Truth. Today is October 30th. It's the day before Halloween, so that's why we still have the pumpkins up. And the air date, the show is going to air on the 3rd, November 3rd, which is going to be the day before the election. So the name of the show is going to be very simple. It's Vote. Get out there and vote. And, you know, when it comes to voting, guys, not only is it a privilege, but it's something that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't take seriously, especially in the midterm elections. And, you know, people are going to say, well, what are you going to turn out for? What are you coming out for? Why are you going to vote? Guys, I'm going to make it as simple as I possibly can. I'm voting for one thing. I'm trying to convince people what's more important, people or profits. And once again, it's really simple. What's more important, people or profits? Now, I'm going to show you a chart. And I want you to look at this chart, and when you look at it, it's gonna amaze you. And here it is. And this is what I'm coming out for, guys. And if you look at this chart, if you own stock in this company, you'd be on your way to the bank, because look at the growth. I mean, just look at the growth in this company, if this was a stock. Look at the tremendous growth. Now, the unfortunate thing is, Judy, our director, is out here adjusting the camera. But Judy, now we want to go to the next video, so now you're going to have to get in there. Hey, John, see what happens when... John, our director, he got a job in solar, so now he's working overtime again. So now, all right, Judy, we really got Kurt, you're going to have to try to come out.
We hate the world. We've crunched the numbers and know the hotter the earth gets, the more money we make. Wind and solar? Nice try, hippie. Climate chaos? Not a problem. For us. We're designing elevated mansions, deep water boarding schools, and domed shopping malls on the moon. Want to stop us? We'd like to see you try. ExxonHates.com.
All right, nice choice, Judy. Judy went to camera 1 because camera 2, you know, we got a skeleton crew here, so please bear with us, guys. I mean, really, just bear with us. So, once again, the reason why I want to come out, if you were to look at this chart, if this chart were to represent a corporation, you'd say, this is the type of company I want to invest my money in. But guys, this isn't a corporation. This is the world temperature chart. And this temperature chart has been compiled, and let's see, we're going to go to the next still, Judy, which should be number 2. There we go. Okay, and that's number 2. All right, guys, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty here, but just bear with us. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this particular still is for validity. So, Judy, can you come back to me? We'll go back and forth. So, there you go. Okay, so we're starting to get the flow of it now, Judy. So, person X. Let's go to there we go. Okay, so guys, once again, you know, on Who's Telling the Truth, we always want to show you how screwed up we can get everything. But guys, this is the average global temperature chart. And you can see, like I said so many times on this show, and if you come back to me, Judy, now, so many times. That chart's just plain as the nose on my face. All right, guys, we're going to try to get our act together here, but we ain't promising anything. All right, now the next clip, number 4, is going to be another clip from Exxon. So, Judy, hit it.
Here at Exxon, we hate America. Sure, oil hurts communities and endangers the planet, but the truth is, you can't stop us from drilling. Why? Because we own your government. Big oil invests millions buying politicians, and we get back billions of your tax dollars. So you'll be seeing more of our exploding trains, dirty pipelines, and fracking wells from sea to shining sea. ExxonHates.com.
Okay, so guys, as you can see, Exxon is one of the corporations that has helped us achieve these levels. And when you go out to vote this coming Tuesday, I want you to think of one thing. What is the party that is responsible for doing nothing when it comes to global warming? Uncle Joey! Uncle Joe, how you doing, Joe? Joe, I had Joey look up world temperature charts on Google. And you know what Joe said about this chart? You're not going to believe this. He said he thinks the charts were altered. I said, Joe, you got to be kidding me. This data was compiled by NASA. These are the guys that put the satellites up in the air so that you can make a cell phone call. These are the guys that enable you when you're driving in your car and that person comes on and they say, turn left at Smith Street. These are the guys that are giving us this chart. Do you think they know what they're doing, Joe? Do you think they know what they're doing? Do you think anybody would alter a chart like this? Satellites don't lie. Thermometers don't lie. But you know, you've got to listen to the Koch agenda, and it drives me crazy. So one more time, we're going to show you how Exxon hates your kids. So Judy, hit it.
Here at Exxon, we hate your children. We all know the climate crisis will rip their world apart, but we don't care because it's making us rich. That's right. Every year, Congress gives the fossil fuel industry over $10 billion in subsidies. That's your tax dollars lining our pockets. Making a fortune destroying your kids' future? At Exxon, that's what we call good business. ExxonHatesYourChildren.com.
Guys, you know, some of the biggest hits that I've ever had when I'm blogging is I'll say to people when it comes to global warming, I'll say, why do you hate your children? Why don't you care enough about your children's future to get off your fat ass and find out what's really happening with global warming? I mean, why do you have to, you know, listen to the Koch brothers and just follow blindly with what they have to say? Now, guys, in that last clip, you see that the oil industry takes in over $10 billion a year in subsidies. $10 billion a year. You got to be kidding me. Now, the next clip is going to be from Next Gen Climate. And they want you to get out and vote. And this was done by Woody Harrelson. And you'll say, and guys, there's one person I want you to know. This is only a short video. It's only 30 seconds. But you're going to notice there's one famous brother in this clip. And let's see if you can pick him out. So, Judy?
They told us the world was flat and insisted it was the center of the universe. They ignored pollution, said that cigarettes were harmless, leaded gas was safe, and there was nothing wrong with CFCs. Now they tell us climate change is a hoax. Some powerful people want to hold us back, but the truth is undeniable. This is a fight we will win.
Next Gen Climate Action Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Guys, just like they said, some powerful people want to hold us back. And why would they want to hold us back? It's all in the name of profit. They want to put profit before people. And, you know, we've got to change the business model. It's that simple. And that's why when you look at this chart, there's no more denying. You can't say, Rich, maybe the globe's warming, maybe it's not, maybe it's man-made, hey, look, it doesn't get any simpler. If this was a stock, you know, you'd be in the hall, if you bought this, you'd be in the Hall of Fame. People would say, oh, you're a genius. Hey guys, we're killing ourselves, we're killing our kids. And, you know, nobody wants to do anything. And why? Because, you know, we're fed the hype from the media. And then you're going to say, oh, Rich, stop with the media, you know. It's all, the media is not going to swing elections. Guys, the next clip we're going to show you, Scott Brown from New Hampshire, and we're going to show you how the Koch brothers are standing behind him. So you got a guy that doesn't live in the state that he's representing. I mean, these guys are so full of BS, it's hard to believe. So Judy, hit us with the next clip.
The Koch brothers, out-of-state oil billionaires. What are they doing in New Hampshire? Backing ads to elect Scott Brown. Brown voted to keep giving billions in special taxpayer-funded subsidies to oil companies. Out-of-state oil billionaires trying to elect an out-of-state politician. That's good for big oil, but bad for New Hampshire. LCV Victory Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
It's all about one thing, isn't it, guys? It's all about the money, and this is what drives me crazy. And then, you know, people will say, well, you know, Rich, that's an isolated incident. You know, how do we really know this is going on? Well, we're going to show you a clip now from Rachel Maddow. And Rachel Maddow is going to virtually prove, beyond any doubt, how Chevron is trying to buy this, the government, the government of one town in Richmond, California. And when you see this, you're going to say, you got to be kidding me. I mean, these guys will spare no expense to continue to line their pockets. And this is why I say you got to make a choice. People or profits, which is it going to be? But I mean, right now, you got to make a stark choice, and the reason why is because the corporations aren't getting the message. They just don't understand. They think that anybody that works a 40-hour week, you know, should get paid minimum wage, shouldn't be paid a living wage. They think that women should only get 75% of what a man gets. They think people shouldn't be paid overtime. They think there shouldn't be weekend premiums. Look at all the people that are working at Walmart. The reason why so many people are on food stamps is because Walmart doesn't pay their employees. And it just gets worse and worse, and we have to change the business model. It's really simple. So the next video, we're going to show you Rachel Maddow, and I tell you, she's going to pin Chevron to the wall, and you guys are going to see what happens, and you're going to say, you know, Rich, I never really realized this is how they conduct business. But guys, this is how they do it. And as sad as it is, here's the truth. So Judy?
As a general rule, you do not want the skyline of your city to look like this. This is the city of Richmond, California, just outside of San Francisco. This was August 2012. And the thing that turned that otherwise peaceful day in Richmond into a scene more closely resembling a war zone is the thing that is sitting right at the base of that huge cloud of black smoke. You can see some of the smokestacks there. That billowing cloud was coming out of an oil refinery owned by the giant oil company Chevron. The Chevron refinery snugs right up to the city of Richmond. It's been there for more than a century. And that August day in 2012, Chevron's oil refinery just ignited. A corroded pipe inside the refinery was the cause of the explosion, but the fire stretched on for nearly 5 hours. They couldn't get it put out. Ultimately, that incident sent more than 15,000 residents of Richmond to the hospital as toxic chemicals spread all across that city. Since that day in August 2012, a little more than 2 years ago, the city of Richmond, California, and the oil company Chevron have more or less been in a state of war with each other. And it's not so much the residents of the city of Richmond, but more like the mayor and the city council. The city of Richmond sued Chevron a year ago over that explosion and more than a dozen other incidents like it over the past 3 decades. Chevron's response to that lawsuit was to personally attack the Richmond mayor for, quote, failed leadership. They also labeled the city council dysfunctional. More recently, Chevron and the city council in Richmond have sparred over $1 billion plan that Chevron's been trying to get through to essentially modernize and enhance and kind of turbocharge their giant refinery there, the same one that blew up back in 2012. The Richmond City Council, and specifically the more liberal wing of the Richmond City Council, they've basically been a thorn in Chevron's side for years now. They want to put all sorts of conditions, safety conditions mostly, on Chevron upgrading its refinery. What does the world's most profitable industry do when something or someone is standing in the way of their interests and their bottom line? Guess what they do? This November 4th, otherwise known as Election Day all across the country, there are, of course, the big marquee races for Congress and governor across the country, but there's also tons of local elections, including an election for mayor and city council in good old Richmond, California. And in the lead up to that election in Richmond, California, billboards like this one have been popping up all across the city. Lots of them. This is one of the candidates for mayor in Richmond. As you can see, his name is Nat Bates. That's the big print. But if you read the really, really, really teeny tiny fine print on that billboard, you will see something else. Major funding by Chevron. Ta-da! Very subtle when you put it in print that small. In the lead up to this election for mayor and city council in Richmond, California, Chevron is now trying to pick Richmond's new mayor and their new city council. And why not? They've got a refinery there. They would prefer their own candidates to run local government there in order to get out of Chevron's way. And so they are trying to install their own local government. They've been putting up these billboards. They've been sending out glossy mailers like these ones to the city's residents. They've been running lots of TV ads against city council members, the ones that they, Chevron, would like to see ousted. Because California is one of those states where you have to say right on the ad who's paying for it, you can follow this as they do it. Major funding by Chevron. I mean, just for context here, in terms of what they've done, the candidate who Chevron is supporting for mayor, the guy on the billboard, he's had so far $1.3 million of Chevron dollars, Chevron cash, sent on his behalf in this race for small town mayor. $1.3 million so far. His opponent, the guy that Chevron wants to defeat, last count, he had about $22,000 cash on hand. So $22,000 versus $1.3 million for a small town mayor's race. Chevron has run up against a city and certain elected officials that it would very much like to get out of its way. And right now, they are trying to remove those obstacles by basically backing a Brinks truck right up to that beleaguered city and opening the doors. I mean, after the Citizens United decision cleared the way for unlimited corporate spending in federal campaigns, it didn't feel like it was that much of a sort of earth-shaking national update when the court followed up the Citizens United decision with the news that it's not just federal elections, actually corporations can spend unlimited money in local elections too. But little old Richmond, California right now is living that dream right now as one of the richest corporations in the history of the earth unloads money on that town. Not like it's coming out of a spigot, but more like it's gushing out of an out-of-control blown well.
Guys, you wonder how these elections are won? Chevron's spending $1.3 million, and the other guy is spending $22,000. I mean, if this was going to be a fight, they wouldn't even let it start. Forget about it. Forget about it. Guys, this is why you go out and you vote. You don't let these guys get away with this. And I tell you, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have a feeling that the Republicans are going to win a lot in this coming election. And why? You just saw the proof why. But another thing is the more of their deception. And last week we really gave Megyn Kelly the bada bing. I mean, we really knocked her for a loop. And she had a sort of a retraction, almost an apology over what we had presented. I mean, you know, of course, we just use clips from everybody else. And I couldn't download it because it wasn't on YouTube. But I would have loved to have shown you. And I mean, finally Fox is going, wait a minute. You mean if we don't tell the truth, there could be repercussions? Yeah. Instead of talking to these senile old simple folk, Uncle Joey. And Uncle Joey's not young. I mean, not old. But man, oh man, I tell you, he's brainwashed. And when you look at a chart like this and you say the globe isn't warming, guess what? You're brainwashed. It's that simple. When somebody can take you and teach you how to use, not to use logic and reason. You know, Joe, are you looking at the chart like this, Joey? Is that you? Hey, Richard, hey, see? It all depends on how you hold the chart. Joe. All right, now wait a minute. Now, like I said earlier, the last show we gave it to Megyn Kelly, we're going to give it to her even worse today. But first, we're going to let her have a little conversation with John Coleman, the guy that started the Weather Channel. And I don't mean to disrespect Mr. Coleman, but I think he might be better off if he was in a home, you know, surrounded by a bunch of other, you know, nice teddy bears with some hot chocolate, you know, where he doesn't have to think too much. Because after what you hear of what he says on this clip, you got to be kidding me. Is there anything he got right? And the first thing he's going to say about global warming and climate change is that it's almost like a religion. Well, some people believe and some people don't believe. Guys, it's not the way it works. You look at the data, and the data tells you everything you need to know. It's that, you know, well, I think that. No, this is it. Stop. When you go to pull a lever on Tuesday, which column lever are you going to pull? The D or the R? Are you going to deal with the people, you know, the Republicans don't stand for reality, so remember that when you pull a lever. All right, so now we're going to show the clip with Megyn Kelly and with John Coleman, and then we're going to have a nice discussion about it. So, Judy, hit it.
Terrorism, epidemics, poverty, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. The reality is that climate change ranks right up there with every single one of them.
No nation is immune. We know what we have to do to avoid irreparable harm. And for the sake of future generations, our generation must move toward a global compact to confront a changing climate while we still can.
Well, that was Secretary of State John Kerry and most recently President Obama at a UN climate change summit. The administration hammering the message that man-made climate change is one of mankind's greatest threats. But our next guest disagrees. John Coleman is the co-founder of the Weather Channel, winner of the American Meteorological That's a tough one. Meteorological Society's Award for Broadcast Meteorologist of the Year, and he has spent more than 60 years reporting on the weather. John, good to see you tonight. And so upset were you by the claims of man-made global warming that you wrote a letter to the UCLA's Hammer Museum for their forum that was called Tackling Climate Change. And you said you don't have both sides represented, and I'm here to tell you that man-made global climate change is a myth. How can you say that?
Well, it's very easy, but thank you for having me on your program. You know, a climate skeptic can rarely get on TV ever since Al Gore made it a plank of the Democratic Party.
And they say you're Looney Tunes if you don't believe as he does.
You bet. And I've been in TV news organizations now for 60 years, and I only met 2 Republicans the whole time, and they were both hiding in the closet. I mean, this is a tough go for people who don't believe in climate change.
Well, we heard a lot of that from the last even presidential debate. I mean, even some of the Republican candidates up there suggested you are nuts. Remember John Huntsman? If you don't believe in man-made global climate change.
Well, it's very difficult for anybody to be against it because the media has told the nation over and over again, day after day, for 20 years, that the oceans are rising, the polar bears are dying, the ice is melting, that storms are going to sweep the earth, and that we're all going to die of a heat wave. I mean, this is an incredible bad science.
What's your data to the contrary?
A professor at UCLA named James Engstrom was very upset that the Hammer Museum Forum was going to not give both sides of the climate debate. So he suggested they should have Willie Soon from Harvard and me join that debate. And of course, we were turned down. Well, I wrote a nice memo to the people at the Hammer Museum, and that got picked up by my friends at the Heartland Institute, a think tank in Chicago. They put out a press release, and voila, it's been all over the media. Not the mainstream media, of course, the internet, and
but what's your
there.
data to the contrary? And soon the Weather Channel will be canceled altogether. They will push it out of existence since you've taken this position. But let's get specific, because you talk about how the efforts to prove the theory that carbon dioxide is a significant greenhouse gas and that it's causing significant warming have failed, and yet the data say that carbon dioxide was proven to be a greenhouse gas in the 1957 paper by Roger Revelle. The EPA says it's a greenhouse gas. The scientific community has accepted that it's a greenhouse gas, and that the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has gone up since 1958.
Well, there are 9,000 PhDs and 31 scientists who have signed a petition that says it is not a significant greenhouse gas. Oh, it's a teeny, itsy-bitsy greenhouse gas, but it's not in any way significant, and we are sure of it. It's not like something I made up or just thought of. I've studied and studied and studied. And Roger Revelle, the great scientist who wrote that paper back in 1957 with Hans Suess, changed his mind a decade later and said, wait a minute, I think we were wrong. Don't anybody panic. I don't think there's any global warming. And that's when Al Gore said he was senile.
Al Gore, okay. Al Gore said he was senile.
Now,
okay, so speaking of Al Gore, let's remind the audience of what Al Gore said.
Roger Revelle taught it to him. He got a D, and yet he has made $1 billion off of climate change.
So
Shame on you,
stand by, because I
Al
want to play Al Gore. So, and this is his argument, and then you can respond. Listen to him.
Starting in 1970, there was a precipitous drop-off in the amount and extent and thickness of the Arctic ice cap. It has diminished by 40% in 40 years. And there are now 2 major studies showing that within the next 50 to 70 years, in summertime, it will be completely gone.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, I would like to announce tonight to people who are friends of Al Gore's that, whoops, he got that one wrong. The Antarctic ice cap is at an all-time record high in both coverage and thickness, and the Arctic ice cap at the North Pole is at the highest it has been in several years. It's in its so-called normal range since we got satellite observations that could measure it. So not only is the ice not melting, more polar bears are alive and happy today than we've had in 100 years. Life is good, Miss Kelly. I got to tell you, life is good.
John Coleman, good to see you. Thanks for being here, sir. I hope the Weather Channel survives now. It's going to be, it's likely to lose its license. We appreciate you being here.
You know, if you're going to be a climate denier and a bullshit artist, get your bullshit together. Because I tell you, if you're going to be a liar, be a good one. It's that simple. I mean, if you're going to lie, lie properly. Now, at one point, Coleman said there was a petition where 9,000 PhDs signed the petition and 31 scientists. Well, guys, back then, it was 31,000 scientists. So if you're gonna lie, lie right. Don't, little lie, really lie. And, one time I was listening to Mark Morano. Mark Morano runs a website called The Climate Depot. And I tell you, he got out there and he rattled them off. Bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. And he was terrific. And I said, this guy is good. I mean, the Koch brothers are getting their money's worth with this guy. But did you notice Al Gore showed a chart? He showed a chart on the ice up in the Arctic. Did John Coleman show a chart? No. All he did was say, the ice is getting thicker. That's all he said. And all he wanted to do was create doubt. Oh, Al Gore said it, but John Coleman said the opposite, so I'm going to trust John Coleman. Guys, you don't trust anybody, you trust the data. And the data tells us, and the next clip is going to be from NASA. Once again, do you think that we can trust the guys that give us the technology? Do you think they're going to tell us the truth, or do you think they're going to lie to us? John Coleman, maybe it's time you retired. Judy, hit us with the next one.
Satellite observations by NASA show sea ice coverage in the Arctic has reached an annual low. The sea ice receded to an area of 1.94 million square miles on September 17, 2014, making it the 6th lowest extent on record.
Arctic sea ice basically acts as a big air conditioner for the planet. When the sun shines down on it, most of the energy is reflected away. So it helps to keep the planet cool. Since 1979, we've been monitoring the extent of sea ice with satellites. And at the present time, we've lost an area equivalent about a third of the United States. It goes up and down every year, but the long-term trend is that we've been losing a lot of sea ice. In large part, what's been causing the decrease has been heat. The Arctic has been warming up, especially in the last 10 years. The temperatures in the Arctic have risen about 2 to 3 times the global average. So increases in the global temperature have been decreasing the thickness and extent of Arctic sea ice.
The total volume of sea ice at the end of the summer melt season in 2013 is about 2/3 less compared to 1979.
The loss of Arctic sea ice thickness, it makes it less resilient. If it's just not as thick, what happens is that it melts faster, and because of this, it just doesn't stay around as long in the summer. It's important that we're looking at Arctic sea ice because of the large impact that it has on our climate. It's basically one of the most significant symbols of a changing planet.
Guys, isn't that odd, the way the chart that NASA just showed us looked strikingly familiar with the chart that Al Gore showed before? Why? The data doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. It's that simple. Now, the next clip, we're going to refer to the 31,000 scientists that John Coleman was talking about. And guys, we've been over this before on the show. But when you want to learn about climate science, who should you ask? It's really simple. A climate scientist, right? I mean, if you got a problem with your foot, you go to a foot doctor. You don't go with an optometrist, right? You can't hear, you don't go to the foot doctor. Am I right or am I wrong? So now they're talking about 9,000 PhDs. Well, how many of those PhDs were climate scientists? And then they said there was 31,000 signatures from other scientists. What kind of scientists were they? Remember, the only thing we're going to accept around here is climate scientists that are publishing peer-reviewed studies. And guys, peer-reviewed, and the publishing and the peer review is so important. Because, you know, another scientist will look at this chart and he'll go, yeah, you know what, you got everything right. However, if something is wrong, another peer reviewer can come by, hey, wait a minute, this is wrong, and I'll show you why. And this is how science works. Science can change. You know, when we talk about climate change and the science is settled, the science is settled. 95% of the climate scientists agree, which means that 5% don't. But who are you going to stand with, the 95% or the 5%? It really comes down, it gets very simple, guys. Charts don't lie. See that, Joe? Charts don't lie. All right, so the next clip is going to be about the scientists and how they compile this. And they're also going to talk about this guy Seitz, who was with the National Academy of Sciences. But he really, when Gore said he went senile, unfortunately, the guy did. He either had dementia or one of these other problems, and the National Academy of Sciences even said, listen, you know, we don't want to kick a guy while he's down, but maybe it's time him and John Coleman should get together and practice knitting, because they can't get science together. So Judy, hit us with the next one.
This is tantamount to admitting that we have to do something about global warming. You don't believe global warming is real. You don't believe global warming is real. You've said so. It's just sunspot activity.
In the opinion of about 32,000 of the world's leading scientists, yes.
32,000 of the world's leading scientists? Is that really true? Well, no.
Today, together, you and I are going to learn the rest of the story.
To get to the bottom of this crock, we'll have to go back in history and meet someone who really was, at one time, a leading scientist. Dr. Frederick Seitz, a distinguished physicist, was president of the National Academy of Science from 1962 to 69. In the 1970s, Dr. Seitz was president of Rockefeller University. At some point, when he moved out of the lab and into the world of big-time fundraising, a change occurred.
I'm a fool for a cigarette. Lord, I'm a fool for...
In the late 70s, Dr. Seitz began a long stint as a consultant to the tobacco industry. In this capacity, Dr. Seitz directed as much as $45 million of tobacco-funded research. Interestingly, not one study directed by Dr. Seitz came up with any hint that cigarettes were harmful to health. When asked about the moral implications of taking money and shilling for big tobacco, Seitz stated, "Any money was good as long as it's green. I'm not quite clear about this moralistic issue." But towards the end of the 80s, Big Tobacco and Dr. Seitz had a falling out. In this letter released during the tobacco lawsuits of the 1990s, a tobacco executive recommends against further reliance on Dr. Seitz, who he says has become quite elderly and not sufficiently rational to offer advice. Dr. Seitz, however, did not see things that way. Over the years he had been working to prove the safety of cigarettes, he had become politically active in right-wing causes and served on several fossil fuel-funded think tanks, including the George Marshall Institute. From this platform, Dr. Seitz had begun to argue that environmental toxins were not nearly so harmful as people had been led to believe, that pollution was no threat to atmospheric ozone, and that the science behind global warming was flawed. In 1996, 7 years after he had been declared mentally incompetent by those that worked most closely with him, Dr. Seitz authored a letter to the Wall Street Journal in which he stated that the process behind the international consensus on climate change was fraudulent and dishonest. although he had not been involved in that process and had no background in climate science. He complained about a corruption of the peer review process, a charge that is highly ironic in light of subsequent developments. Mentally deficient or not, the letter made a bit of a splash in the media. It was soundly debunked by working climate scientists in the field, but it brought Dr. Seitz to the attention of yet another group that was about to make a statement on global climate. The Oregon Institute for Science and Medicine, located outside Cave Junction, Oregon, is a small nonprofit organization founded by Dr. Arthur Robinson, a chemist. The group markets a unique set of products, such as books on nuclear war survival skills, along with plans for homemade radiation detectors. The site informs us that nuclear war would be survivable, not nearly so much to be feared as crazy scientists have told us. And who knows, with the right products from Dr. Robinson, it might be fun. In addition, Dr. Robinson is the author of a homeschooling course designed to protect children from the public school's socialist values. The program's materials include, among other things, the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1911. Dr. Robinson had also grown concerned about yet another example of creeping socialism, the science of global warming. In 1998, he was ready to do something about it. That year, all across the country, thousands of scientists received a package with a cover letter signed by Dr. Seitz. The letter made reference to Dr. Seitz's background in the National Academy and implied that the Academy had serious questions about the science behind global warming. The letter came with a document made to look like a peer-reviewed scientific study, laid out in a style similar to the publications of the National Academy. It was a marketing strategy familiar to those like Dr. Seitz, who had worked closely with the tobacco industry.
The record shows that many of the country's most respected doctors openly challenged anti-cigarette claims. There is another side to the cigarette controversy. It's all here in this white paper. Send for it.
Groups like the American Association for the Advancement of Science and the National Academy itself were besieged by calls from hundreds of scientists concerned that a fraud was being perpetrated. The venerable journal Science covered the controversy and asked Dr. Robinson about the curious design of the mailer. "I used the proceedings as a model," he said, "but only to put the information in a format that scientists like to read, not to fool people into thinking it's from a journal." The National Academy was not convinced. In an unprecedented rebuke to a former president, the Academy released a statement on the affair. The National Academy is concerned about confusion caused by a petition and a manuscript in a format that is nearly identical to that of scientific articles published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The manuscript was not published in the Proceedings of the National Academy or in any other peer-reviewed journal. The petition does not reflect the conclusions of expert reports of the Academy. It's unknown how many scientists believed the scam was a legitimate survey, but by 2000, the project had collected 17,000 signatures. The internet being what it is, however, pranksters had already begun to out-fraud Dr. Robinson's fraud. A number of names appearing on the petition seemed to lack scientific credentials. Names such as Hawkeye Pierce, Ginger Spice, and Michael J. Fox. Dr. Robinson acknowledged to the Seattle Times that little attempt was made to verify credentials of those who responded. "When we're getting thousands of signatures," he said, "there's no way of filtering out a fake." After another bogus petition was mailed out in 2007, the signature count is now up to 32,000. Of the signatories, little is known. According to the website, only 39, about 1/10%, claim to be climatologists. A large number claim to be veterinarians, dentists, or MDs. The biggest single category are those with a Bachelor of Science or equivalent. If you believe that a Bachelor of Science or equivalent is an expert in any field, try calling one next time you come down with, say, lung cancer. Meanwhile, the good news is Anyone who can sign a petition can now be a leading scientist. These could be leading scientists. With Dr. Robinson's help, this could be a leading scientist. And the scam rolls on in the anti-science echo chamber.
My next guest wants to sue Al Gore for fraud. He hopes a legal challenge will settle the global warming debate once and for all. He's John Coleman, and he founded the Weather Channel.
We have 30,000 scientists, 9,000 PhDs, who have signed up to debunk global warming, and they still won't listen to us. You realize that Fox is the only cable network that will put us on the air. The whole deal is that somehow we have to be heard, so we figure maybe a court of law.
Of course, there is no lawsuit, and there are no 30,000 scientists. But that's not the point. The point is not to be accurate or speak truth. The point is to confuse, to fog the issue.
It's global government! There are 30,000 scientists trying to sue this guy! John Coleman, the founder of the Weather Channel, is suing this bum! You're all in line!
To stand in front of a camera and make nonsensical assertions and wave your arms while the fossil fuel industry continues to make billions of dollars and feed a global disaster. I hope you'll keep coming back to Crock of the Week, where we clear the smoke, light up the facts, and burn the frauds of climate denial. And where we never, never inhale.
Guys, did you see what John Coleman said in that clip? Fox is the only network that'll put us on. Why do you think that is? Judy, show us the next still. Come on, Judy. Judy, you had to pull this one off. There we go. So this is the reason why you'll see John Coleman on Fox News. They deceive, you believe. All right, and if you come back to me now, Judy. Now, guys, the other morning, I'm watching Fox, and they're talking about carving pumpkins. And the Department of Energy made a suggestion just to put renewable signs on the pumpkins, you know, like a windmill, curly Q light bulb. Just a suggestion. Well, that was enough to push the people at Fox over the edge. So here's what happens when it comes to anything renewable or sustainable. This is the way Fox treats it, even when it comes to stuff for kids on Halloween. So Judy, hit it.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire.
Well, it's jack-o'-lantern time. It's Halloween time. So what better time to bring up the saving of fuel and energy, because it is Save Energy Month.
It's National Energy Action Month, and the Department of Energy thinks that you, rather than carving out a scary face on a pumpkin, should do one of those 5 energy symbols. That's right. A windmill. They've got leaves. They've got the CFL. Really?
Which is
That's what they want?
There's even a tutorial video, but don't say Happy Halloween. You have to say like Happy Harvest Festival during all this, don't you? I mean, we've got to be politically correct for all this. I just can't figure out really what the connection between the two is. What does this have to do with Halloween and fall necessarily? For Thanksgiving, or when you have like turkey stuffed with anti-Keystone Pipeline propaganda and Easter Bunny war on women chocolate eggs or something?
Well, whatever you do, don't put just a candle in there. I would imagine they would want you to do one of those little fake candles or something that runs on a battery. You know what? If you want to send an alternate message, you could always carve a coal plant on the front of your pumpkin, because that's where the electricity to run your Prius comes from, a coal plant.
All right. So what do you think about that? Do you think that Halloween and pumpkin carving is the perfect time to get your Save Energy message out? We do, as you could tell.
Guys, you know why the Department of Energy put those symbols out there so that they could get Fox to make fools out of themselves. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. I mean, these people are so shallow. It's unbelievable. And did you hear what Ducey said? Yeah, the electricity comes from a coal-burning power plant. You know, they would never acknowledge that anything comes from solar or from wind or from anything. They just can't accept it. Why? Because their agenda doesn't permit it. Right, Uncle Joe? You got to keep burning that fossil fuel so that this chart can keep going up, right? All right, now, speaking of Halloween, the next clip, one of our buddies, Sid Media, had solar panels put on his house. And guys, Sid's house is on Hillside Avenue, and it's right off of Madison Avenue. So when you come from North Street, I think that's North Street. Yeah, and you go up and you go over 84, you'll be able to look up and you'll see Sid's house and you'll see the panels. So we got a nice video of Sid's house, and then you're going to see what a nice job he did decorating his house for Halloween. So Judy, hit it. Okay, guys, we're at Sid's house. And this is obviously the south-facing portion of his roof, and he's having 13 panels put on. And you'll have to understand that this is a two-family house, so he's just using panels for the second and for the third floor. He's not providing electricity for the first, but the 13 panels is going to provide him with enough power for everything. He's got the house nicely decorated. We're on Hillside Avenue, and you'll see if you look down here, we're on the corner of Madison and Hillside. So a lot of people will have come this way. You know, this will lead us up towards the high school. You can see the street sign over here for Marjorie Street. Sid's got all the decorations out for Halloween, which is great. You know, he's got some nice community spirit going on here. Wow, this is really nice. So, and now we're looking at the guys from Solar City. And these guys seem like they really got their act together, which is nice. The electrician is just finishing up they had to shut the house off, but you can see the inverter over there. The panels, look like they're the top of the line panels, the darker ones. And then, now the white thing is the inverter, am I right? And what's is the other thing just an on-off box?
What's that?
The one that says Solar City on it?
That's communication.
That's what?
Communication.
Communication?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, before you go any farther, don't put me on there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No one could see you with there.
But I'm just saying you might want to contact them, let them know what you're doing.
Solar City?
Yeah.
It'll be on YouTube. They can watch it.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, good. I'm doing you guys a favor.
I don't want to be, listen to me, I don't want to be on YouTube.
Okay. I'll make it a point you're not. Yeah. All right. Hey, we just got a surprise visit from Marty Heiser. Hey, Marty, take a look at this chart and tell us what you see there. Tell us what you see on this chart. Marty's a conservative, everybody.
What I'm seeing here is a 5-year average and the annual average, and temperature is going up, 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 up. You can see clearly from this graph why it looks almost like a hockey stick.
Wait a minute. Wait, I think somebody better come out and give me mouth to mouth.
That's not going to be me.
Marty, I'm in shock. So you mean you agree that global warming is real and happening? Huh?
Do you really want me to come on?
No, well, just say yes or no.
No, I don't believe that global warming's happened. I think there's more polar ice than there ever has been on the South Pole, and I think there's...
Come over here. Marty, after the show is over,
yes,
you might want to watch it, because after you watch it, you're gonna go, could I possibly be that wrong?
So there really is global warming.
Charts don't lie.
Oh, of course not. Of course
charts
not.
don't lie.
You have a chart
They
here.
don't lie.
And
They don't.
as long as it has it gotten any warmer over the past 18 years?
Yeah,
it has. Okay,
Marty, the charts don't lie.
All right, there's the chart. Is there more ice on the South Pole now than there ever has been?
Yeah, there is.
There is.
There's
more.
Yeah, there's more. Well, no. See, now here's what you have to define now.
Okay.
Are you talking about land ice or sea ice? Because both.
There's more, and it's thicker than there's ever been.
Because there's less land ice, because the land ice has melted.
I see.
And run into the sea, which has increased the volume of the sea ice.
Okay, so if there's the square footage of ice is increasing, you, from your global perspective, your global warming perspective, have an answer for it. One other question: what about the polar bears? Are there more polar bears now than there were 100 years ago?
No.
There are less polar bears.
There's less but what'll happen is, the guy that gave the report that said there was more polar bears, I watched him do it on Fox.
Fox!
And then he said, well, we have no evidence.
Yeah.
But this is what we think.
Okay.
Well, we're not here to think.
Well,
we don't think. We let charts tell us.
I don't mean to jump into your show or anything like that.
That's fine.
Let me just ask
This couldn't
real
be
quick.
any...
Okay, when General George Washington was fighting the Revolutionary War in the harbor in New York, was there a sheet of ice so you could walk a horse and wagon from Staten Island over to Manhattan?
Probably.
Okay, so there was.
Probably.
So I'm just wondering: does the Earth go through series of global warming and cooling periodically in our history?
Absolutely.
Okay. So why now is this series of global warming or cooling, whichever it is, mean that we're going to have to somehow raise taxes, give it to liberal Democrats because they'll fix it?
Don't assume that we're raising taxes.
Oh, good. Well, then we agree.
How much time?
Oh, sorry.
We're done.
We're done?
We'll keep arguing, and we'll roll the credits sometime.
So the credits were already run? We're really done?
They're running now. Say goodbye.
Say goodbye. This couldn't get any better than it was.
Goodbye. Look, have me back on?
Oh, you want to embarrass yourself again?
Absolutely.
I'd love to. I'd love to. I can't believe that what are you going to do?
Help me! The Earth is getting warmer.
It is.
Warmer.
It is.
Help me! Stop the Republicans. Vote Democrat. We'll solve the problem.
So where are we, Judy? Hello?
I think I wrecked your show.
Well, we got off to such a terrible... Are we done yet?
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Oh, man.
Guys, the charts don't lie. Unless you're Uncle Joey.